Hello, English learners, and welcome back to English for Your Day. I'm your host, Lily, and I'm so happy to have you with us again. We've noticed that so many of you are interested in learning about asking for and giving directions in English, and it's easy to see why. It's such an important skill for everyday life, whether you're traveling or just navigating your local area. So, because of that interest, we decided to explore this topic further in today's episode, giving you even more practical phrases and examples to use. To help us explore this more, my wonderful guest, Liam, is back with me again. Welcome back to English for Your Day, Liam.
Great to be back, Lily. I'm excited to delve deeper into directions. There's always more to learn, and it's such a useful topic for everyone.
Exactly. In this episode, we're going to listen to 3 short dialogues, each showing different people in slightly different situations asking for directions. This way, we can give you even more examples and phrases to add to your English toolkit. Let's start with our first conversation. In this one, we'll hear Maria asking John for directions to a specific shop.
Excuse me, do you know where the bookstore, Bookworm's Nook, is?
Bookworm's Nook? Yes, I do. It's a little bit tricky to find, actually. Walk along this road until you get to the traffic lights. At the lights, turn right onto Oak Street. Walk past the bakery and the coffee shop. It's just after the coffee shop on the left-hand side. It's a small blue shop.
Okay, so right at the traffic lights, past the bakery and coffee shop on the left, blue shop. Perfect. Thank you so much for your help.
No problem at all. Enjoy browse.
Okay, Liam, our first dialogue is done. What are your thoughts on this one? What did you notice that's interesting or useful for learners?
This is great because it introduces a few new elements, Lily. Firstly, Maria uses "do you know where" is, which is another very common and natural way to ask for directions. It's slightly less direct than "where is," and again, a touch more polite.
Good point. And John says it's a little bit tricky to find. Why might someone say that?
Saying something is tricky to find is helpful because it manages expectations. It tells Maria that it might not be immediately obvious, so she needs to pay attention to the directions. It's also a friendly warning to listen carefully.
That's thoughtful of John. And then he gives directions using, "Walk along this road until you get to." Until you get to. That's a useful phrase for directions, isn't it?
Absolutely. "Until you get to" is excellent for giving sequential directions. It tells Maria to continue on the current road up to a specific point, in this case, the traffic lights. It breaks the journey down into manageable segments.
And then at the traffic lights, he says turn right onto Oak Street. Why onto?
Using "onto" is correct when you are turning onto a named street. So, you turn onto Oak Street or onto Main Street. If you are just saying turn right or turn left without naming the street, you don't need "onto."
Got it. He then says, walk past the bakery and the coffee shop. Walk past, what does that mean?
Walk past means to continue walking and go beyond something. So, Maria needs to walk beyond the bakery and then beyond the coffee shop. It's another way of giving a sequence of directions using landmarks.
And finally, he describes the shop as just after the coffee shop on the left-hand side. It's a small blue shop. Using just after and describing the shop's appearance, are these good techniques?
Definitely. Just after is very precise in terms of location. It tells Maria exactly when to look after passing the coffee shop, and describing it as a small blue shop gives a visual identifier, making it much easier to spot. Color and size descriptions are great for landmarks, especially for shops or buildings. And on the left-hand side is a clearer way to say on your left.
Excellent breakdown, Liam. Shall we move on to our second dialogue? In this one, Emily is asking Robert for directions to a museum. Dialogue number 2.
Hi, excuse me. Could you tell me the best way to get to the National History Museum from here?
The National History Museum? Okay. It's probably about a 15-minute walk. The quickest way is to go down this street and take the first turning on the right. Then, follow the road around to the left. You'll see a big church in front of you. The museum is right behind the church. You can't miss it. It's a very large building.
So, first right, then follow the road left, church in front, museum behind.
Great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Enjoy the museum.
What stands out to you in this conversation, Liam?
This dialogue introduces a few more variations, Lily. Emily asks, could you tell me the best way to get to? This is useful when there might be multiple routes, and she wants the recommended one, perhaps the quickest or easiest.
That makes sense. And Robert estimates the distance by saying it's probably about a 15-minute walk. Is that helpful?
Very helpful. Giving an estimated time or distance is great context. It helps Emily decide if she wants to walk, take public transport, or a taxi. About, approximately, roughly. These are good words to use when estimating.
Robert says the quickest way is to go down the street and take the first turning on the right. Go down the street and take the first turning. Are these common phrases?
Yes, go down this street is another way to say go straight ahead on this street, or simply go straight. And take the first turning on the right or left is similar to take the first right or left, but turning is a bit more formal. Turning refers to any road or path that branches off the main road.
He then says, then, follow the road around to the left. Follow the road around to the left. What does around add here?
Follow the road around indicates that the road curves or bends. So, it's not a sharp left turn, but more of a gentle curve to the left. This is important detail to visualize the route.
And then, you'll see a big church in front of you. The museum is right behind the church. You can't miss it. It's a very large building. Lots of landmarks here.
Exactly. In front of you and right behind are excellent for spatial relationships. In front of you means directly ahead in your line of sight. Right behind means immediately after or directly behind something else. And again, Robert uses a size description, very large building, and the phrase, you can't miss it, which is reassuring and emphasizes that the museum is easy to find once she sees the church.
Great. Let's listen to our third and final dialogue. This time, David is asking a shop assistant, Sarah, for directions to the bus stop.
Excuse me, please. I'm looking for the bus stop. Could you point me in the right direction?
Sure. The bus stop? It's just outside the shopping center, actually. If you go out of this shop and turn left, walk straight ahead for about 50 meters. And you'll see it right there in front of you. It's next to the big taxi rank.
Turn left out of the shop, 50 meters straight ahead, next to the taxi rank. Got it. Perfect. Thanks a lot.
No worries. Have a good journey.
Okay, Liam, our final direction dialogue. What are the new phrases or interesting points in this one?
This one is great for a couple of reasons, Lily. Firstly, David uses, could you point me in the right direction? This is a more idiomatic way to ask for help with directions. It's a very common and natural phrase.
Point me in the right direction. So it's not literally asking someone to point with their finger.
Exactly. It's a figurative phrase. It means, can you give me guidance or instructions? It's a polite and slightly less direct way of asking for directions.
Sarah says it's just outside the shopping center, actually. Just outside. What does that mean in this context?
Just outside means very close to the shopping center, immediately outside. It implies it's very nearby and convenient.
And then she says, if you go out of this shop and turn left. Starting with if you, is that common?
Yes, starting with if you is a very common way to give conditional directions. It sets the starting point. If you go out of this shop, and then gives the next instruction based on that starting point. It's very logical and easy to follow.
She then says, walk straight ahead for about 50 meters. Giving distance in meters, is that typical?
In many countries, yes, especially in cities. Giving distances in meters or kilometers is common, as well as in yards or miles in other places. About 50 meters is an estimate, like about 15 minutes walk in the previous dialogue. Using about makes it clear it's not an exact measurement.
And finally, and you'll see it right there in front of you, it's next to the big taxi rank. Right there in front of you, and next to more location phrases.
Yes. Right there in front of you emphasizes that the bus stop will be very obvious. And directly ahead once David walks the 50 meters. And next to is another useful preposition for landmarks. Next to, opposite, behind, in front of. These are all crucial for giving clear directions. And taxi rank is another good landmark, a place where taxis wait.
Liam, these 3 dialogues have given us so many more phrases and ways to think about directions. If we were to add to our tips from the last episode, what new key points would you highlight for our listeners about asking for and giving directions in English?
Building on our previous tips, I'd add, for asking, vary your opening. Use, do you know where, is? Or, could you point me in the right direction? As alternatives to where is and could you help me? Ask about time or distance. Is it far? Or how long does it take to walk? Are practical questions to add. Listen for landmarks and descriptions. Pay attention not just to turns, but also to landmarks, colors, sizes, and descriptions of places. Confirm your understanding. Repeat back key parts of the directions to double-check, like Maria and Emily did. Forgiving. Estimate time or distance. If possible, give an approximate walk time or distance in meters, kilometers, yards, miles. Use sequential phrases, walk along, until you get to, go down this street and take the first turning. Helps break down directions. Use prepositions of location, opposite, next to, behind, in front of, on the left or right, just after are essential for clarity. Describe landmarks visually. Use colors, sizes, and types of landmarks. Blue shop, big church, taxi rank. Use you can't miss it. This reassuring phrase can be helpful when the destination is obvious once you reach a certain point.
Fantastic additions, Liam. This expanded set of tips will be so valuable for our listeners. Thank you for breaking down these dialogues so clearly and giving us even more tools for navigating in English.
You're very welcome, Lily. Directions are all about clear communication, and hopefully, these episodes are helping our listeners feel more confident and prepared.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Liam, for sharing your expertise on English for your day. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Lily. Always a pleasure to be here.
And thank you, listeners, for joining us for today's episode all about directions. We hope these extra dialogues and tips have given you even more confidence in asking for and giving directions in English. Remember to practice these phrases in your everyday life. You can find the transcript link in this video's description. Join us next time for more practical English tips to make your day easier and brighter.